Episode 6 of Gen V has just been released, and what can I say? It was a different episode, but I think it's definitely one of the best that we've seen this season. Following what happened in the last episode, with it turning out that Cate was the person that was wiping everybody's memories, this episode showed us the repercussions whilst also allowing us to take a look inside of all of their minds, digging up regrets from the past. So with that, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. Here is Gen V Episode 6 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I've got to start this video by having a moment for Dusty. Roped into it and didn't even want to be there. He didn't even like Cate. Gone but not forgotten. Anyway, this episode was almost like the group were frozen in time, and it allowed the pacing of the show to feel like it could just stop and do something very intelligent. The plot developed forwards by us taking a look backwards, something that felt really calming and relaxing whilst watching, despite the fact that the group were connected to Cate's mind and it was quite literally collapsing in on itself as she didn't want to be around anymore. This off-balanced with the scene outside of the mind where we had Emma and Sam together and sharing a more positive experience was something that provided a real contrast and made it feel like there were two polar opposite sides of the spectrum with this episode. I'll be breaking this video down by each individual character as we saw their trials, tribulations, and regrets in this episode, and there's a ton to take away from it. Let's start with the woods. The woods is a place where there's been a lot of mystery in the past 5 episodes, but this episode really brought to light the work that they're doing and the mindset that Shetty has. In the previous episode, we found out that they were working on creating a virus which would be spread amongst the soups. We didn't find out a reason as to why, but in this week's episode we saw the effects of it, along with the purpose of its creation. Sam mentioned that in the closing moments of the episode, and it seems like the entire project of the woods is there so that the regular humans can have what's being called compassionate control over the soups, something which they've not got at the moment. With the test subject that we saw, Betsy, the virus impacted her powers to the point where they weren't able to use them. Then, following Shetty looking to see how far the virus could be pushed, she ultimately ended up dying after being given more. Something which shocked Cardosa, and it actually looked as though he was regretful over the fact that a soup had died. But Shetty on the other hand seemed to be pleased with what had happened, and it seemed as though that was the result that she wanted, closing off the episode with "now find a way to make it contagious." What Sam said is starting to ring true. Shetty is against the soups, and it seems as though the result that she wants is to see them dead. So the university that is full of soups has a dean at the head of the realm who essentially wants them eradicated. We also saw that there was other work that was going on down there. Sam and Luke were being tested on, and Sam was essentially the guinea pig. They were using Sam to augment Luke's powers, showing just how strong Sam actually is. With all of this now being known amongst the group, it very much feels like their plan of exposing it is going to get underway, and judging by the trailer, it looks like it's going to work, as there was a soup running around in the grey attire utilizing their powers in the city. Cate. Cate essentially hosted this episode as most of it took place inside of her mind, and even when out of her mind, it was inside of the other characters' minds which were connected to hers. We saw the reason as to why she was working alongside Shetty. However, what I didn't expect was just how involved she was. She was essentially their weapon, and their way of making Luke forget everything that was happening to him, along with making him fall asleep and believe that his brother was dead. It was truly evil actions from her. No matter what situation she was in, she did some horrific things to ensure that Shetty, Cardosa, and Brinks all got what they wanted. What was heartbreaking about Cate's arc in this episode was that we saw just how much she viewed herself as a monster due to what happened with her brother, and the fact that she sent him away. Cate was treated like a prisoner in her own home, being locked away for 9 years and having nobody near her, almost vilified for having the powers that she had. This is the obvious reason as to why she ended up working alongside Shetty, because she was the first person to show her any kind of true affection and trust whilst treating her like a regular human. The simple gesture of just holding her hand, skin-on-skin contact, something which she probably hadn't had for years. Shetty was that caring figure that her mother once was. When you think about it, in the previous episode, Shetty using words like sweetheart and hugging her, they're very motherly, caring actions. Something which I think is great, because Cate literally has mind control powers but was being manipulated and gaslit into essentially having her own mind controlled. With all of the damage and harm that Cate had caused everybody in the group, Sam and also Luke when they were together, making him forget things every single time that they were together, we saw that she essentially wanted to end things for good due to the guilt that she felt, and she wanted her mind to collapse in on itself, but Andre managed to pull her back. So even though there's no more trust, I think it's clear to see that she'll find her way back into the group. Marie didn't have too large of an involvement, not like Cate, but we did get to take a look inside of her mind, and it took us right back to the day where she killed her mother and father when she discovered that she had powers. I thought this was one of the best scenes in the entire episode. It was moving, emotional, and I felt like I could almost feel the pain that Marie was feeling. As she looked over at her mother and father that were lying there, we saw her sister and what she said to her. And it was the very reason as to why we saw Marie have the mindset that she had when she first arrived at Godolkin. Her sister viewed her as a murderer and a monster. It didn't matter to Marie if she became a hero, got into the Seven and saved countless lives. The fact that her sister viewed her as a murderer was the one thing that actually mattered the most to her, and she wouldn't ever be able to look past it. Personally, I feel we'll see Marie's sister make an appearance before the end of the season. It lies within the core of Marie's character arc, and I wonder if following what Marie did, maybe her sister took some V and got some kind of powers, meaning that she could literally become a villain. That's something that I'd quite like to see. Andre. Oh, Andre. I thought the bro code meant nothing to him before this episode, but jeez. It meant nothing to him long before Luke was dead. He was seeing Cate behind his best friend's back for a long time, and nobody ever knew about it. Something which did surprise me. The more I'm watching this show, the more I'm not liking Andre as much. I don't feel he's got any real troubles to latch onto like the other characters. He's got the pressure from his father to get into the Seven, and he has this desire to be a suit that doesn't focus on the image, but is just actually a good hero. However, he's not really a nice person, so it seems the opposite to what his character actually is. The reveal of this happening with Luke returning and confronting him in his memory was a good inclusion, and I loved that we got to see a bit more of Golden Boy expressing his powers, because everybody was petrified of him. Andre's love for Cate is something that is still there, and he was actually the person that talked Cate out of ending things, so he was the hero in that moment. Jordan. Within this episode, we saw that Jordan was gaslit by Brinks just as Cate and Marie were by Dean Shetty, so it showed that at all angles they were working on getting certain soups on their side. Jordan knew of the woods and the fact that Luke and Sam were being experimented on as they heard a conversation that took place in the office, but they chose to do nothing. They instead wiped out Luke and put him to sleep. Jordan's situation was similar to that of Cate's, but on a different part of the spectrum. Jordan faced pressure from their parents, but they weren't accepting of the fact that they switched between being a boy and a girl, whereas Brink didn't mind that and showed an accepting attitude towards them, which in turn made them feel accepted, wanted, and happier. So it was clear to see why Jordan didn't end up saying anything, because they didn't want to lose the only person that showed them what they believed was genuine care. However, in the present day, we saw that they were upset and felt responsible for everything that followed. The line that they said to themselves, "You're a coward and you always will be," shows the guilt that they feel and have felt for a long time, maybe even tying into the death of Luke. Sam and Emma. This was an arm to the story which was just happening alongside all of this in the real world. After Emma got her memories back, she went straight to Sam and they were intimate with each other for the first time. Something which really showed just how much they cared for one another. I love the connection that they've got together, and the fact that they're there for one another on a deeper level. It feels like they make each other's problems go away, and it's refreshing to see. With Sam arriving at the house after the group woke up, we got a glimpse into just how powerful Sam was again, single-handedly taking them all out in a matter of seconds. He's such a powerful character, and we've only seen glimpses of it, but I hope we get to see more as time goes on. Overall review. I thought this was such a good episode of the show. I think it might actually be my favourite so far. It was quite emotional to watch. All of the characters digging inside of their minds and tackling the issues that they've been holding on to for a long while was a change, but I feel like I know the characters on such a deeper level now. Soldier Boy's inclusion was just pure class. It was short, brief, but impactful. Hearing the music as he arrived, his stone-cold attitude and his expressive language was so funny to watch. This episode has truly marked the beginning of the end of the first season. With only 2 episodes to go, I think they're definitely going to be focusing on getting the woods exposed and turning on Shetty and Cardosa. It feels like nobody's safe anymore, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen to the soups and also the woods. So, there you have it, Gen V Episode 6 Ending Explained.